welcome to the first episode of, what are we calling it? Do we know?
We don't know yet.
Deep Lore was one of them. Behind the Lore was one of them.
Lore.
That one.
Loreville.
Welcome to Loreville. That is great to be back. I'm not back, but I guess it's the first time. So we're going to be doing this once a week, me and Jason, and then we're going to be bringing on guests and artists, and they're going to be talking about sort of how they built what they built in the pop culture space. The goal really is just to create I guess the way to put it is just explain how the building blocks of pop culture are built. And so to do that, I'm so thrilled to announce this officially. We have the newest member of the LOOR team. His name is Shon Tomlin, and I'll read his bio because he sent me one, and it's pretty impressive. It says Shon has built and led entertainment and media companies from iteration to launch since he was 23, starting first in the Web 1.0 era. Shon developed and produced the world's first live stream concert events in partnership with Warner Brother Records and Capitol Records. He is also responsible for helping ESPN launch their X Games franchise, with multiple years developing original shoulder programming for the sports network. After that, he joined News Corp's Fox Cable Networks and launched Fuel TV, the first 24/7 action sports and entertainment channel targeting males 12 to 34. Shon's record for beating sales and ratings targets well ahead of their time horizon has earned him a reputation for viewership and revenue success. In addition to developing Emmy Award-winning projects for NBC, Fuel TV, and National Geographic, he held several awards in both traditional and digital media. Please, everybody, welcome the newest member of the LOOR team. I can't even believe I got to read that.
I know.
And say that. Shon Tomlin, welcome to LOOR, man.
Hey, good to be here. Good to be here. Good morning or good afternoon.
That was the crowd going wild. Yes.
Yeah, Shon. Let's first start. I mean, because when I look at like what LOOR's doing and what you're doing, it's just this insanely perfect match. You started with Fuel TV. You worked on Fuel TV, X Games. I mean, you understand punk rock culture and why that's important. So how did that happen?
Yeah,
How did Fuel TV happen?
Yeah, how did Fuel TV happen?
Yeah, Fuel TV is a cool story. I mean, basically, there was a few people that were talking about starting a full-blown action sports channel for a long time. And, starting any kind of network just takes an enormous amount of money. And I guess some of the people over at Fox Cable Networks and business development said, hey, let's go for this. Let's fund it and run it under the Fox Cable Network. So Fox Cable Networks had things like Speed Channel, Fox Soccer Channel, Fox Reality, National Geographic. So this was just another addition to that lineup. And I got hired on basically number two or number three. And I remember just going to these empty offices with like no furniture and, like two phones. And I think it was like March 3rd. And they said, well, we're launching July 1st. And I was like, wait, July 1st of next year, right? Like, no, July 1st of this year. And so it just had to scramble and launch this network in multiple countries, 24/7 network, in a few short months. So I just, fortunately, I had some relationships with a lot of people that were making surf, skate, snowboard videos. And to me, it was like, well, let me go to that world first and see if I can kind of show them how to make a TV show and, just create TV shows out of thin air. So it was super exciting because Fox is really cool. They didn't put a lot of pressure. We didn't have to follow the normal studio network system. So it was pretty punk rock. And it was a lot of fun. And there's a lot of war stories in between, but man, it was a good time.
Yeah. And I think what's just amazing is, I mean, obviously you did X Games, or you helped build that, right? I don't know exactly the specifics.
Well, so legend has it. When I was pretty young, I was making skate videos and I wanted to promote the videos. So I thought, oh, what better way to promote it than to do an extreme, back then it was kind of cheesy, called extreme sports, so an extreme sports tour. So Me and my buddy got Tony Hawk's phone number, cold called him. I was like 23. I was like, I'm like calling, God.
Dude, can I just ask, how'd you get Tony Hawk's phone number?
That's a good question.
Because that's you can't start with that. You have to start with how you ended up with Tony Hawk's phone number.
I know, and I'll have to fill in the gap because my buddy Morgan got it, and I don't remember how we got the number, but somehow we got our paws on that phone number and literally cold called him, and said, "Hey, we're doing this half pipe tour. It's going to be at the top inline kids, the top BMXers, and the top skateboarders." And it's really funny because at that time, skateboarding was dead because all the skate parks were closed because of insurance reasons. So this is like 92, 93, 94. So action sports was, other than surfing, it didn't exist. Tony was what that was salad days back then. I mean, all the sponsorship revenue, deck sales, that was basically gone. And we said, look, we could pay you $100 a day. And so we called him, and then he said, well, I got some other top vert guys, and then we called some BMX guys and some other guys. Anyways, we did that tour, and we did it all the Six Flags theme parks around the country, and got a sponsor with Coca-Cola. And all of a sudden we packed a van, and I remember just blasting like NoFX and Green Day and a bunch of smelly rotten kids like driving around the country and setting up a ramp and then doing these demos. I mean, it was super lo-fi. But what was cool was back then it was like a big deal. You'd roll into St. Louis and Atlanta and Houston, and no one had people were blown away. Like they just hadn't seen all these sports together. It had never been done before. So we had like Matt Hoffman and Rick Thorne and Dennis McCoy and all the top BMX guys. And I guess Ron Samio was a big exec at ESPN, and he stumbled into the Atlanta show, and he saw our show, and he's like, "This is the future. Let's start." They start with the first year they called it the Extreme Games, and so that was the first year in Rhode Island, and then we got to they asked us to come along, and we like filming behind the scenes, and all of a sudden my company became like the go-to like cool kids that would film behind the scenes and hang out with Tony and Matt and all the action sports guys and do all the kind of like cool behind the scenes shoulder programming to give it a vibe. And so my company was doing that for both X Games and also for MTV Sports and Music Festival, which if anyone in the audience is old enough, those were super cool events. And anyways, that was how I dipped my toe in.
That was like the proto Warped tour, right?
Yeah. So this is, and we actually we shot the first Warped tour as well with Kevin.
Oh, you can't get Jason started on Warped Tour. He just goes into.
Yeah.
Oh, that's starts feeling very sentimental and want to jump into a crowd.
You can't be fans with people who are working for our company.
Sorry.
Yeah, keep it professional.
You got to keep it professional.
Yeah, very. Keeping it professional.
Keep it pro. No, so that was my world through the whole 90s, was working closely with Kevin Lyman and Warped Tour, and we would go on the tour and do all the behind the scenes and film. We would do all the coverage of it, and it wasn't really even an official deal. It was like we were just kind of there. It was like filming everything. So between that deep exposure with the Warped Tour in the very early, the first year to the next 10 years to shooting all the Camp Woodward videos to the X Games, MTV Sports and Music Festival, and then doing a lot of work for different action sports companies, because we were based in Huntington Beach, California, which is the epicenter of board sports culture. So we were just kind of in the middle of it. We were the Rat Pack, we were kind of like the Rat Pack, hanging out with everyone. And, the ESPN guys were just kind of, these were old football stick and ball guys with big giant beta cams. And we were just thugs with Super 8 cameras and Sony VX1000s and pissing off all the old guys. But it was a ton of fun, and we kind of ruled the roost. And ESPN said, "Hey, if you want to create programming for us, you can do that. We can't pay you, but we'll give you the airtime." So we scrambled and got sponsorships. And
how early in ESPN's career was it, where they could say we can't pay you?
95, 96. So the first X Games was 95 in Rhode Island, and we launched our first show, Kids in the Way. A partnership I did with Matt Hoffman in 96.
Yeah, so
early days.
There's just another story of a major network like ESPN starting out with saying, we can't pay people, but we'll let you do what you want.
Yeah.
That's just seems to be a consistent theme
It is,
in
yeah.
every major cable network and stuff. It's amazing to see that every time. it's just this constant thread of freedom is really what builds the brands, not necessarily the hundreds of millions of dollars and stuff. But no, which is helpful, but it's not the thing. The thing is the talent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that was a specific time period where it was just Wild West. Cable was booming. This action sports thing was so new and exciting. You have this staunch old network, like trying to do this cool hip thing and target a whole different demo. And they were cool enough to trust to say, hey, let's let these younger guys that are immersed in the culture kind of take the lead. And so that was great. And I can't imagine anything like that happening now in any kind of mainstream.
Well, it'll happen in streaming, which with niche streaming channels. So everything's going back to 4 antenna TV channels now.
Yeah.
We're back to ABC, CBS, and NBC, but it's just it's Netflix, Paramount, and HBO,
and Disney Plus,
and Disney Plus, and they've basically merged. I mean, even under the Disney label, there's your ESPN channels and stuff like that, and then with Paramount, you have CBS and was it Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, Paramount, and MTV. They've all just merged and consolidated. So there's not distinct niche brands now.
The new Beavis and Butthead was put out by Paramount and not MTV.
Yeah.
Right, which is like, why did that happen? Yeah. And I think I heard that Max, it's not called HBO Max, it's Max, just announced they're going to switch back and put HBO shows as its own category again. Because people are like, they've lost all that brand identity and stuff that happened.
Yeah.
And so now I think we're back to a Wild West time, which is why LOOR is so great. But let's start. What was the show you were talking about that he worked on?
Nitro Circus. You were telling me the story of Nitro Circus, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Because it didn't start at MTV.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Nitro Circus is a good example. Backing up to when I started at Fuel TV, my first inclination was to look at the videos, the DVDs that were already in the marketplace, like the big snowboard, freestyle motocross, skateboard videos, and the filmmakers that were a part of that. To me, it was like, I had all these kind of traditional production companies coming to Fuel TV and trying to pitch us shows, and all the big agencies, William Morris, Endeavor, and CAA. And I was like, no, guys, first of all, we don't even have anywhere near that money. But second of all, no one's going to get this right unless if I have the culture actually make the programming. So Nitro Circus was an example where the Nitro Circus videos were already out in the marketplace. And I was always a big fan of Travis Pastrana, and the guys his partners, Jeremy Rawl and Greg Godfrey, were just super cool guys, really down to earth. And I said, hey, would you be open to turning this into a series? And I think at the time they were like, yeah, but we kind of have this thing where MTV's sort of interested, but they've kind of been on the sidelines. And so they were a little nervous about doing a deal with Fuel TV because we had to have a fraction of the budget of MTV. So I was always kind of like, let's always find a way to make it work. So I said, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we structure a deal where we can take the I think it was 3 videos, and let's cut them up and create little segments and interstitials and build them into a series. And if you get these guys to wake up at MTV, I'd hate to tie you guys down with some exclusive deal where you're not going to make real money. And so we structured a deal where that allowed them to do that. And sure enough, MTV came around, and we kept the original kind of first series and then relinquished the rights back to those guys so they could run and jump with MTV and turn it into the beast that it is. So it was a win-win, and it was really kind of those guys. It was a killer compromise. But then I held them to the fire, though. I said, but you guys are so darn good. In fact, it's really funny. You guys remind me of Jeremy and Greg a lot. You're just like good guys. You're down to earth. There's no ego. I love it. But they're very similar to you guys, just easygoing. And I said, but I want to still do an original series that we own with you. And so then out of Nitro Circus was born Thrillbillies. And I wish I could say I came up with that name. I think Greg and Jeremy did. But when I heard the name Thrillbillies, I was like, that is a genius name. So we gifted Nitro Circus to MTV, and then we went and built Thrillbillies, which I have to say I actually like even more. It was a great show.
It is such a good name too.
Yeah,
because it it's not made by a group of Manhattan executives.
Oh no. And that was the thing about everything.
There's money in extreme sports right now. Let's make ourselves.
I want glossy floors. I want it shot on 70 millimeter. Yeah.
So that mindset that said, if it's good for the artists, it'll be good for the network. Is that something that they allowed you to do because I know a lot of the networks don't think that way about artists. They commoditize but it sounds like at Fuel TV, you guys thought, well, if the artists are blessed, then the network is blessed. Like the artists are the network is the artists. You didn't have the rivalry between the two. Was that just because you had to hit some successes, they let you do that?
I think it's a combination of a few things. We were such an oddball in the Fox cable networks collection, and it was almost like the seasoned upper level execs didn't even really know what to do with us. And it was like, oh yeah, that Action Sports channel we started, it's like, and they just kind of let us run free range. And it just, we didn't have that kind of pressure. And the general manager of the network was a guy by the name of CJ Olivares, who also had a pretty long pedigree in the action sports world. He's the one that found me and brought me on, and he just let me run wild. I mean, I was free range the whole time. And so, as long as I never screwed up, there was never a big drama or controversy. There was never, nothing ever, I always met the budgets, and the kids liked the shows. And it was like, if it's not broke, we're not going to meddle with it. So I think, a combination of a lot of things there. Lightning in a bottle for sure.
But you're saying that a younger audience does actually have money. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, well, okay. So are you talking about, on the business side of it?
Yeah, on the business side. Because one of the things that we hear a lot is, well, if you can't, the boomers have the money. So if you're not serving the boomers.
Yeah, I get that all the time. It's like, you got to serve the boomers or you
okay.
won't get any.
Well, so LOOR or any kind of streaming play is obviously a much different business model than television. But, for us, television is free, but the money that's made there is from two channels in the world of cable. So one is the affiliate revenue. So that's the revenue that the Comcast, the Time Warner, Spectrum, DirecTV, Dish pay to the network. So they'll pay, like, I think ours was like 19 cents a viewer per month. That's what we got. I think ESPN today gets like $16 or something ridiculous. Anyways, so that's the one revenue stream.
No wonder they can't take risks anymore.
Yeah. And someone could fact check me on the current numbers, but the idea is that we were like, pennies compared to that. But that's a pretty healthy revenue stream. So if DirecTV takes you on, they say, okay, that's 8 million viewers right now. That's 8 million times 19 cents times 12 a year. And then the other revenue is from the advertising. The young audiences are valuable because for the advertisers, and especially back then when young people were watching TV. So we were able to capture a lot of major brands like Mountain Dew, Jeep, Scion, Verizon, those kinds of brands to do both branded content and then advertise on the channel. So the business model worked great.
Yeah. Well, let's. I mean, I guess the question I have is, I'd like you to tell people why in the world you're working with us two.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you know,
So how did we
how did we get connected?
connect with you? That's
and
I keep asking myself
why
that.
is this happening?
yeah, this is now where we can switch roles, and I can fanboy now on you guys a little bit.
Yeah.
And by the way, happy birthday, Marcus.
Thank you, man. The big 40.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So
That's a
I'm
great
getting
number.
the joint pains and all, like, it's all great, man. It's
Yeah.
starting to feel.
This is sometimes I just get a hip replacement just preemptively, just in case. Yeah. So, why I got excited about you guys is just to kind of set the table on that is I've been so immersed in this since, I guess, 92, 93. I mean, I started really young, and I was involved in the very early days when AOL launched and they were trying to do a media play. And then MySpace was going to try to do a media play. And then you had all these like companies in the late 90s when all that money was flowing in Silicon Valley. And there was going to be all this interactive TV. And, I've seen hundreds of business plans. I've sat in rooms with billionaires and zillionaires listening to everybody, breathlessly get blowhardy about their crazy unique idea. I've watched companies fold left and right from Quibi all the way down. And it's just, no one really gets it. No one's really reading the room. Really, no one's really paying attention to like what's actually happening today. What do people want? How are they consuming media? And, and that early era, it didn't really change much. It kind of stayed the same for 5-year increments. And now it's like stuff changes really fast. And when I heard you on a podcast about a month ago, and I was really
Renaissance Men podcast,
Random Men, and I was like, wait a minute, I'd hit pause, and I'm like, back up 15 seconds, wait, back to the beginning. I want to hear this guy again. I'm like, it's like, this guy gets it. This is the first time, easily I could say this is the first time in 25 years where I've heard somebody go, oh, this guy understands entertainment, pop culture, comedy, animation, technology, gaming, monetization, streaming. Like, it was like, check all the boxes. And I was like, okay, these guys, I got to go. Once I was done with the podcast, I went and checked out the website and just saw like what you had built. And I was like, okay, these guys have built a rock star solid foundation. I've never seen anything like it. I've heard a lot of people talk, and kind of, posture that they've got something, but this is the real deal. So that's why. And I was just like, okay, I gotta find these guys. I gotta talk to them.
Yeah, I was like, I think the first time we talked, you mentioned that, and I was like, see, Jason, we're not crazy. We're not crazy. Everybody thinks we're crazy. I mean, we are crazy. We're the right kind of crazy.
Hopefully right kind of crazy.
The right kind of crazy, but we're not delusional.
You have to be a little crazy. You have to.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the problem, is we're a little crazy in a world where everybody wants stuff to be very polished. And so that is scary to a lot of people, but it's also what builds cultural revolutions. And so, yeah, man, like talking to you and just hearing you say that as someone who's done it on quite the scale was just a huge blessing to me and to Jason. And I'm super stoked to sort of see, what comes out of this relationship and growing LOOR and start funding artists, man. I think, I hear so many stories of artists who they're really amazing. Jason talks to them more than me, but they're just insanely talented and they work at very high levels in Hollywood, and they just want the chance to be able to like make something. And I think our platform allows them to really sandbox new ideas and stuff in a way that, reduces risk. And that's really the key right now, because nobody's thinking in terms of content, in terms of reducing risk. It's all high risk.
Yeah.
And, when you look at, skateboarding videos and stuff like that, whether it's skateboarding videos or Saturday Night Live or stand-up comedy in dark rooms, everything starts there. Everything starts with this sort of underground, sort of cultural sort of movement. And that's why I like what you say. It's like about keeping the culture for the entertainment. And I think especially in the conservative and faith-based that spectrum, or just non-Hollywood spectrum, everything is very, very calculated and polished in a way that basically neglects authenticity, that allows people to really that ability to build fan bases and stuff. It's like I was talking about this earlier today. It's like Trump, when he's talking about people eating cats, whether it's true or not, it's enough truth that people go, well, that guy's speaking like a real person. And anybody that makes that case, yeah, right. And so like there's an authenticity there. I think that people are just gravitating to, and they want to see that in our artists, and they want to see that in art and films and stories. They want authenticity in their films and stories, and they're not getting that in Hollywood now because it's Netflix is just doing this massive Bill Gates documentary series that's coming out. Like everything. Yeah, that's your subscription. I was telling people that's your monthly subscription money that's paying for Bill Gates to interview Fauci on Netflix.
That and George Soros. But
oh my God! All right. Well, let's keep it. Yeah, let's keep it. I don't want to have a downer.
but I think about you hit Gleaming the Cube, right? And then Tony Hawk disappears because they have sort of done the shiny skateboard video, but all those kids that grew up watching Gleaming the Cube went out and got a skateboard.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any net to catch that next generation until the X Games, and but all of that, you have all of that skate punk and surf punk, up from Oakland down to San Diego, building and building and building, and until a network comes along and says, oh, well, we can take a risk on these guys because we don't need a huge return. We can give these guys an opportunity to show the world what they're up to. And it changes the world, right? Now you have skateboard. You already had surfing everywhere, but now you've got skateboarding everywhere. It turns kids that were mostly known for their hair, their haircut, into international celebrities that are once you get to the video games and the Tony Hawk video games, the money shows up, but it's just, hey, we've got this really cool culture of young people that are out having a good time, that don't really care about the things that adults care about, but giving them an opportunity to show the world what they've been working on really does make a difference. As a punk kid at the time, all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a place I fit, right? I remember when the skate parks were all closed because of insurance reasons, the signs going up and the chaining off skate parks, and you think, this is who am I now? And there's a sign everywhere that says you can't skateboard here, you don't belong here. It's powerful for some adults to come along. You were almost an adult,
kind of an adult,
but old enough to come along and say, hey, we're going to make a space for you guys. The people that come along and make a space for that next generation, they're the ones that get to guide and direct them, about where the line was, what was too far, what's not too far. And the people that retreat from the next generation are the ones that have no say in where things go.
Yeah. Well, Marcus had said something that he beat me to it, but the A word, authenticity, and it gets bandied around a lot. But right now, especially, authenticity has always been a winner, but now there's a hunger for it on a whole nother level. And I feel like it's just this volcano ready to explode. Like we are into like fake plastic mask fatigue right now. We just, people are starving for authenticity. And even when people say something's stupid or they made a mistake or something is just not super polished, there's a sincerity to that, and there's something interesting about that. You know, going back to the Fuel TV and everything that I did, like, it was like, if it wasn't authentic, if there was anything that sniffed that wasn't cool about it or it was contrived, it wasn't going to make it. And that rule still holds true today, but I just think people are way hungrier for it right now. On all fronts, you know, I mean, you already hear about kids just like ditching Instagram, and they're sick of doing the fake filters, and they're sick of all the fakeness, and you know, that's not totally widespread yet, but you can feel the early tremors on it.
Yeah, I think that's why live streaming's so popular, you know, like Kick and Twitch, because it's just live. Like those guys are just live for 4 or 5 hours. Like it's very hard to hold on to a persona for that long. Or be fake when you're live, you know, for that amount of time every single day. And so that's sort of where people are gravitating to. The younger people are gravitating to. But what we don't have is we don't have those sort of authentic stories, narrative, dumb cartoons, you know, just those sort of things where, you know, because everything is either a documentary or a biopic or has some sort of strong messaging that is trying to basically getting preached at from both sides, and people are just like, I just want to see a coyote drop an anvil on a roadrunner. Like that's what people want. Like that's what people want, and like nobody's getting it, but because you know we've sort of just come to this false conclusion. I think that all entertainment has to be some sort of has to be appeasing to the academic elites. And it does it doesn't. It just, you know, that's why we say like it just needs to be normal. Like we just need radically normal storytelling.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the Skate Kid talk show that you guys did?
Yeah, Captain and Casey.
Captain and Casey, yeah. It's so wild that Captain and Casey was on television. Yeah. But can you tell us about it?
I mean, you know, and I hate to bore the listeners unless they see it, so I'll say to the listeners, Google Captain and Casey show. Jenkem Magazine just did a quick documentary on it. It's a really cool story. But
that's the rise and fall of Fuel TV, right? Is that that video? Yeah. So if you just look for that on YouTube, the rise and fall of Fuel TV, you'll get what we're talking about. It's incredible.
That's right. Yeah, the rise and fall of Fuel TV. The documentary really hones in on one of our flagship shows, and it was kind of my pet project and my favorite project. But it was called the Captain and Casey Show, and it was a super lo-fi, like public access meets Wayne's World meets, you know, the Tonight Show of skateboarding. And it was this two guys, this Chris Casey, who just passed away. Just take a moment for Chris Casey. Passed away a couple weeks ago. And then this guy, Jeff Carlson, who played the captain. And it was a no holds barred, totally just like no rules show where these guys sat at a desk, like a traditional kind of set, somewhere between Mr. Rogers and Pee Wee Herman on acid. And they would interview top skateboarders, and it was just antics, and you know everything was unscripted, and it was as punk rock as it gets. And I think I had seen just a bit, like a segment of it, in a very early iteration, and I hunted down the producers and the creators, and I said, hey, you've got something genius here. What if we kind of just dial it this way, package it, and then I just gave them a little bit of money and just let them loose. And it's one of those like
an actual little bit, like legitimately a little bit of money, right?
Yeah. So the first, the documentary says I gave him $12,000 an episode. That might be about right. I think it might have started that cheaply, and that was for a half-hour TV show, and that's like was a set, actors, special effects, editing, all of it. And so it was a very small amount of money, and we built that up over and over the years. But it was just a phenomenal show. It's one of those shows I could pick any episode and just laugh. It's punk rock as it gets, and the skateboarders loved it because it was legit. Because Captain and Casey were actual skateboarders, so you know it wasn't some network going, hey, this is going to be our skateboard talk show. It was just, and I really made a point to just go, here, you guys go do it. And they did an amazing job. But yeah, if anybody wants to hunt around online for it, it is, you don't even have to be a skateboard fan. It's some of the funniest TV.
Yeah, when I was watching it, it actually reminded me about, me and you just watched the documentary about G4 TV, and how that was kind of this. Oh, what was it? Was it Tech TV? Well, it was G4 TV. Once
It was
became
G4. It was Tech something before that. Yeah.
But before G4 TV, like nobody knew what Comic-Con was. Nobody knew what E3 was, these video game sort of things. And they went and did live broadcasts at these events. And that all the stuff you see from Comic-Con now is because of this network that built out this basically they figured out how to monetize fan bases. And so I think in the same way Fuel TV did that for the punk and skater group, where it's really, that was one of the real values of cable channels, is that you could do an entire network dedicated towards video games or food or cartoons, right? Or MTV versus VH1 versus CMT versus the Nashville network. I mean, like there were these niches that you could really do that, and you see like the results of that on a broader pop culture. But it always starts with that small core group of fans, and then it builds.
Yeah, and it worked well back then because you had young audiences that were actually watching cable TV, and the only reason it doesn't work today is there's no young people watching cable TV. But back then, when you had that audience, it was and if you got it right, I mean, a lot of people thought we were going to fail, especially within the industry itself. So the surf culture, the skate culture, BMX, those guys they're extremely judgmental. They don't want any outsiders. So everybody thought we would fall on our face and it would just be this super cheesy network. And trust me, there was a ton of cheesy stuff out there. I mean, even X Games to me is cheesy, to be honest. I just think it's still a little bit too, it's just, I don't, it could be a lot better, but, but and that was all just, again, like making sure that the people that are participating in it are actually in it. And the same thing would be with LOOR TV, that the filmmakers, they're real filmmakers, they're real storytellers. And if there's comedy people doing comedy, they're genuinely great comedy people. They know comedy, they love it, they know how to write comedy. And I just think that, that level of authenticity is key. And because it's so early phase and startup, they know they're not going into it signing some multi-million-dollar Hollywood deal. They know they're going to go into it blood, sweat, and tears and not make a lot of money. But the fact that they have a platform where they can be authentic and also get a little bit of help, and that's kind of what I did at Fuel TV. I still would help kind of guide them without being too heavy-handed. Finding that balance and letting people express their creativity and create something that actually people like, that's amazing. And like you said, the word sandbox, that's what it is. It's a killer sandbox. And if you can nurture that right and give people the opportunity, and I think LOOR will be a great place where people can, pitch their ideas and their shows and really have it truly be an incubator. I just don't see anything else like that's doing it the way you guys are doing it. And with the whole, the loot and all that, it's genius. I think people are just, once more and more people catch on to LOOR TV and really like try it out and the content library starts building, you're going to have a hardcore loyal fan base. And it's just, I think it's just going to grow by buzz of, by word of mouth.
Yeah. Well, that is awesome. So speaking of word of mouth, there's 107 people watching right now, which I think is the biggest live stream we've ever done. That's amazing. And so I think probably most of it's from Twitter. Yeah. They fixed their algorithms and brought me back. But go ahead.
We'll call it, maybe we should call it Triple Digit. That'll be the name of our show.
Triple Digit.
We just hit the triple digits.
Just hit the triple digits.
We just added one.
Yeah. So, so that's, to tell everybody that's watching right now, please be sure to like and share and do all the social media things that increases engagement. We like to passively watch, but the algorithm requires engagement. So be sure to like and share and comment, and of course, if you subscribe to LOOR.TV, LOOR.TV, you can get a free 7-day trial, and you can begin funding content right now. Barely Biblical is our most popular show. It's animated teddy bears reenacting the most violent Old Testament Bible stories with all the stuffing and violence that all the stuffing, none of the fluff. That's what we say. But it's a great show. Second episode's funding Ehud and Eglon, and it's about 70% now, or over 70%. And it's every dollar you contribute to that show, you get a 3x return on that right now. It's being blitzed thanks to Renee Leonard Kennedy and the Moral Tea podcast. So thanks for their blitz mode on that. And then what other shows are funding right now?
We've got Subclass, which is a great futuristic sci-fi for teens about the first generation of children that were designed in a laboratory reaching graduating high school, which is just a brilliant concept. It looks great. It looks fantastic. The writers are really good. So we've got Subclass coming up.
Second season of Florida Lee, and he just signed. Did you hear this?
No.
He signed Tibiscus. Toby Turner is his name, and he's a very popular YouTuber with millions of subscribers. To be one of the voices.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
You didn't hear that?
No,
he posted it on Twitter. I wasn't going to say anything, but he posted it on Twitter. So I was like, well, there it is. So that seems like a legit announcement. But Florida Lee's an amazing. We talk about like underground sort of stuff. This guy lives in a mobile home. He was able to use the funds from making the show to buy an air mattress.
His first ever bed.
Which was his first ever bed. Yeah, he got like the episode total was like $200 an episode, and he used AI sort of as a tool. It didn't make the show, but he used it as a tool where he needed and stuff, and he just did this thing. He just made this thing, and it's probably one of our most popular shows in terms of like you can already see it bubbling outside of the show itself. People buying stickers and T-shirts and merch and stuff already that he's putting up from it. Sentiment. You can follow him on Twitter too, Sentiment, if you want updates on the show. But yeah, so season 2, I'm really excited about Florida Lee. He's just doing a lot of work on it. And it's and he's running it through VHS tape. You posted that.
Yep.
The whole season is going to be edited and then put onto a VCR, and then he's going to record the VCR, and then that's going to be the final show. Yeah. Like a 1990s VCR cartoon show. It's insane. The guy's a genius. But that's the sort of stuff that we get at LOOR. Just get these sort of things, and we say, well, let's see if the audience likes it, and if they do, it takes off. And so that's just really phenomenal. So again, go to LOOR.TV, LOOR.TV, subscribe, and get your free 7-day trial. Sean, we will be in touch a lot.
Awesome.
So we're glad you're on board now, and you're going to be working very closely with Jason and the artists, and on that front, and on distribution and stuff like that. And so we're super excited to have you, and it's an amazing, exciting time for LOOR. Thanks to the 130 people that are watching right now for the first episode. We're going to be back next week. Guest next week is Chris Savino, producer and director of Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory, creator of Loud House. He's on our advisory board as well, and he's going to be talking about sort of how he built all those amazing cartoon franchises for those organizations. So we have quite the team here at LOOR. We are growing our army.
Yeah, I feel like I wake up every morning to a banana cream pie, and I think, how did this get here? Oh, I get to work with Sean and with Chris, and just like, what's going on?
Chris Savino, man, that's huge. That's awesome.
It's phenomenal.
So these are going to happen every week at the same time?
Yeah, I think we're going to do this. This is especially with all these people watching right now. It's crazy. I almost don't want to sign off.
Yeah, I know. Well, what are you gonna do these as an hour each time, or just?
Yeah. Basically, the idea is just to create a show that talks about the building blocks of pop culture. Like
Yeah.
uh, that is the main focus. And just because I think me and Jason have learned so much over the past 4 years as we've been building and developing this, and especially over the past year after we've launched, and just we just like the common theme of building media empires is identical and the same. and and not a lot of people are talking about it. And so we wanted to just sort of use this show to sort of help artists, to encourage and equip artists, and to get people to see the importance of sort of what we're doing at LOOR on a more long form scale. So
Yeah, and it's been amazing to see that it doesn't matter if it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, DC Comics, uh,
Marvel,
black comedy, In Living Color, MTV, the cooking, the Food Network, Comedy Central, every single one. You look at them and you say, "Oh, this story has the same shape, no matter what cultural media institution is built. There's a way that this works, that the world works a certain way." And seeing that over and over, and then you look around and start to say, "Oh, nobody knows this stuff."
right.
And so we're hoping to find people that can help us share this understanding of the way pop culture is built, and the way media institutions that they all come together in the same sort of way. So it's amazing to see, and to get to talk to people that have done it like you, Shon, is a huge blessing.
Well, what you guys have built is super awesome. I hope all the audiences out there realize that you've got something very cool on your hands. So stoked to be a part of the group, and thanks for having me on. And again, happy birthday, Marcus. Hopefully,
Thank you.
You get to turn it loose a little bit later on.
It was a great birthday present being able to announce you working with us, man, dude. I'm telling you. So it's been amazing, and I'm looking forward to the future. So
awesome. All right. Well, thank you, and thanks everyone who's on here.